They jump in. Joe causes kind of the head of the clashes of heads.
Unintentional clash of heads.
Very unintentional, accident. But then they had been talking about it throughout the fight already about how Joe's kind of just dipping his head down and
dipping his head down,
jumping in. Accidentally clash of heads, big cut, gash. You could tell he was still kind of rocked. Seconds later, he wipes the blood like you were saying, and then he gets hit with the straight right down the pipe. I mean, I haven't seen such a clean knockdown in a long time. I have to actually go back and think
especially
about guys.
At the flyweight division. Besides Benavidez against Demetrius, when Benavidez was running forward towards Demetrius, but this time he wasn't.
Yep.
That was a lot of power on that shot for a 125-pound fighter. Well, 127.5 pounds.
So he sat very smooth. I saw what you did there. So then he sat him to his butt. Basically, not even a second went by, and the ref jumped in and stopped it.
He's frozen.
Okay, I want to know, was the ref first? I want to take a dig at you, but I won't. Was the ref in a bad spot? Okay, no. Okay, now when the ref sees the head, go ahead.
This is why it was no different than we talk about fighters and being on the open side of fighters. If there is an open side, sometimes they're both. Each fighter has an open side, depending upon their footwork. Okay, and when I say that, if we have an orthodox fighter fighting a southpaw fighter, then and you had both of these guys kind of switched back and forth.
Yep.
Okay, they were switching the whole time. But if you have that orthodox versus the southpaw, you have this angle where they're like this. So one side is closed to the referee as far as seeing. So if an inside leg kick comes, you're not going to see where it lands.
Yep.
Okay. So you always want to be to that open side that shows you the open areas of both fighters. And that can happen. Well, with Dan, these guys are jumping back and forth. So for him to move back and forth, he's kind of flowing with what they're doing. But as they get into that position, you can see he's moving. And he's moving to change that side when Joe comes forward. And he's almost close to the same angle I was with you. Mm-hmm. You guys had moved to a certain point, and I was walking around to get to that other side. And that's when the head clash comes. Yeah. And you see the guys come together, but you don't actually, unless it really you see the heads move.
Yeah.
Usually a clash doesn't have both heads move. They both kind of, come inside and you can't tell. And I would tell you right at that moment, Dan didn't even know he was cut until all of a sudden he backs off.
Yep.
And then Dan sees a cut and goes, shit, how did that happen? Was that a clash of heads? Here's your shot. And the fight's basically over. So was it out of position by Dan? No. Dan did nothing wrong.
Yep.
If Dan had seen that clash of heads, he has a choice. Normally, we see the clash, we're going to say, stop, time. I'm going to give Joe time to clear his head. Mm. I'm going to give Deiveson time to clear his head, because he can be more hurt than Joe. Joe received the laceration, but it could be that, the other fighter, Deiveson, he's actually worse off because it rattled his brain. So you give them both time to try to clear, and then you bring the fight back together. But if you don't see it, you're not going to make that call.
Yeah.
So Dan didn't have time for any of that based upon what occurred. You saw Joe, Joe feels the blood all of a sudden run down. That's what he reaches for. And he knows he's cut. He felt the clash, but he doesn't know if he's cut. Then he feels it, and it's like he's verifying. And he put his hands down, and that right hand just lit him up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so
I felt bad for Joe.
I felt really bad for him because that was his third title shot. Came up short both times, right? I believe one was against both of them were against Demetrius Johnson, and then then this one here. Yeah, it was very upsetting. A little bit of it too, though, was I felt like it was all teed up for him. Everything was about. I felt like the media was all about him. The media was, and they were making the push for him, and I can see why because he's such a great guy.
Who fought for that title fight? Who was the guy? In the fucking media saying things about, Cejudo needs to either, I beat his ass before. He needed to get back down here and let's do this. Or, get rid of that title and I want it. He was pushing it, man. And I really am. I'm in this position of I'm scared.
Yeah.
I'm really scared because I knew if Joe won that belt, that 125 division is going to move on. And he had talked about, hey, I'm not even thinking about going anywhere else. Don't want to go. I fought my whole life at 125. I want to fight everyone at 125. I want to fight the next best guy in line. All of that is great talk and good for the UFC. But now, not only did he not win, so, that guy's gone basically, but the guy who did win didn't win the belt because he missed weight. And now seems, and I hate to say it, man, the UFC was thinking about getting rid of the flyweight division. They were, and I give nothing but props to Henry Cejudo, who absolutely made them hold on to that division. He put on great performances. He wins the belt. He puts on, a great fight against Moraes at bantamweight. So he kind of keeps interest in that. He's doing all kinds of the triple C cringe work, but hey man, you know what? It got people's attention and it put the thought process and the eyes back on that flyweight division. And now it's floundering. That's a bad place for it to be with a guy that wins the fight and doesn't have the belt. If there was a time I said, I said, man, the worst thing that could happen is now Benavidez loses this fight, because that could be that division is going to be gone.
100% agree.